Welcome back to Soundwell Guitar. It's the month of October, so we're in the Halloween season, and I thought it would be fun to cover 5 of what I believe to be some of the most iconic, creepy themes in music that are associated with Halloween. But first, music. Okay, the first theme that I wanted to do, I've got 5 of them I want to get through, is from an old television show. It's the theme music for an old television show called Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone is a lot like our modern day Black Mirror show, if you're not familiar with it. Most people are, but I understand as I'm starting to get up there in years, I might be referencing things that only older people can remember. But the thing that was really cool about this show is it was very much like Black Mirror. It really kind of made you think, very creepy. And it had this opening theme that went like this. Now, that scared me when I was a kid hearing that, but it actually was played on a guitar. And the guitarist's name was Howard Roberts. Now, Howard Roberts has actually been known as like the most famous guitar player that no one's ever heard of. Now, I had heard of him. I'd first heard of him when I actually purchased a Gibson Howard Roberts guitar. It's beautiful, beautiful guitar. I wish I still had it. Yeah, I remember that, buying that guitar and then wanting to know who Howard Roberts was, and then come to find out he was the guitarist that played that theme in Twilight Zone. Now, why considered the most famous guitarist that you've never heard of? Because he didn't just do Twilight Zone. He did the theme to Batman, the old, television show Batman. And then you had Bonanza that had Michael Landon. I don't know if you're like a Little House on the Prairie fan, I am. But he did that theme. And he also did the theme to The Munsters. You'd almost think I would have been doing that one in this video, but actually, alas, I'm not going to be doing the theme to The Munsters in this video. Anyway, so the theme, anyway, it's really cool. You start out with that chord, where we're way up here. I mean, the frets are really close together, so it's a little awkward to play. And this first chord right away is reminiscent of another very creepy theme that I'm actually not really going to cover on this lesson, if you want to call it a lesson. The Psycho, it's kind of, anyway, kind of sounds like that, the knife thing, that really dissonant chord. Anyway, it starts out with that, and so I've got my third finger way up here. You got the dots past the 2 dots. It's like the 15th, 17th, 19th, then 21st fret. That's on the second string, my third finger, and then I got my first stretched back over here at the 18th fret to create that dissonant chord. Now our first finger remains stationary the entire time. It's the second string note that changes, where we got these 2, then I'd add the 4th finger to the fret ahead of the 3rd finger to create that. Then back to that chord. My first finger remained down the whole time, and then my second finger jumps in to create that chord. So again, it's like you're 3 and 1. You're way up here at the 21st fret, and then your first finger at the 18th fret with that chord. Extend your 4th finger, or actually really extend it at all. You squeeze it in there. Right there at the 22nd fret, back down to that one, then add the second finger on the 3rd string, 21st fret. Our next theme is by composer Edvard Grieg. This is much earlier than when the Twilight Zone was made. This actually was written in the 1870s for a piece called Peer Gynt, which was actually also a play. And the particular theme that we're going to cover is In the Hall of the Mountain King. Probably heard that before. Hear it a lot around Halloween. Now, the story behind this one was, it was not originally a play, but Peer Gynt was written by Henrik Ibsen. and it was based loosely on Norwegian folklore. So themes like trolls and gnomes, dwarves, that kind of thing are in this in this story. And later, when Ibsen decided to adapt it for the stage, he needed somebody to compose music for it, and he chose Edvard Grieg, who's a very popular composer in his day, but did not write music that typically would fit with something with themes like that. And he actually had some difficulty doing it. He couldn't make the deadline. He didn't think he was the right person for the job. But it was his wife that encouraged him to press on, as she noticed that the more he got immersed in that Norwegian folklore stuff and reading the poem and really getting his mind into that kind of thing, that his style started to adapt, which is really kind of cool to be able to do that. But anyway, in this particular part, Peer Gynt, who's a person, apparently up until this point, by the time you get in the Hall of the Mountain King theme, he's already crashed a wedding and tried to seduce some other woman, and then finds himself heading up into the mountains, and I think he hits his head on a rock, and then later is carried off by some woman who then later, I think she claims that she was impregnated by his mind. It's kind of weird stuff. But he winds up being captured and put, by, I don't know if they were like gnomes or whatever it was. It's very like, Lord of the Rings kind of stuff. And has to meet their king, I guess, to get his judgment. But anyway, this theme is played. I didn't actually do it in the same key that the tune was originally written in. I just thought it's easiest to do it starting on A, and that is at the 5th fret, 6th string. And we just do this like 1, 3, 4 on the big string, so that's fret 5, 7, 8. And then the 1 right there. It sort of feels like you're just going up on a scale. Like that. Say 1, 3, 4, then to the 5th string, 1, 3. But then he does this cool pattern going down. So that was my 3rd finger on the 5th string, 7th fret. 4th finger went to the 8th. And we keep doing that. And I'm trying to utilize all my phalanges here and go like 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1. So. Like that. That's like kind of how I view like the first half of it. Then the second half walks back up. Now that right there, so it's the same thing. But then you're gonna move your 3rd finger just like so it's flat. You don't have to do it on the tip. You just do it kind of what's called a hinge, like it's a bar. Then now we're on the 4th string. We're going to go down to the 5th fret, 1st finger, 4th string. We got that cool little thing. That's just actually a major arpeggio, a C major arpeggio. So, walk it down with those things, back up to the scale thing. Anyway, have fun with that one. The next theme absolutely had to be done in this video, and it is John Carpenter's theme for his own film, Halloween. The one that goes... You've all heard that. Very creepy. John Carpenter's a pretty cool guy. He actually wrote and directed his own movies and then even wrote his own soundtrack. Now, it's pretty cool because this is a pretty low-budget soundtrack that he did, not just because he did it himself, but it's just a keyboard and doesn't cost a lot of money to record that, and yet it is one of the most iconic horror movie themes ever. And apparently, the movie, when he first filmed it, he didn't have any music for it. He brought it to a film executive, and she watched it and said, well, it's not scary. And it's interesting to note that this film that she watched was the movie Halloween without the music. And so it really goes to show that the music is what made it scary. In fact, those aren't my words. Those are John Carpenter's. He said that it was the music that saved the movie. Now, when he wrote it, apparently he had always kind of thought, since he was growing up, he played bongos, and his dad always told him 5/4 was a cool time signature. Now, I found that interesting, actually, when I was just checking the background on this to find that the tune was written in 5/4. I didn't know that before I decided to make this video. I've always looked up tabs on it, and they always said 4/4. All of them did, and I was playing it that way. But when I actually looked at the score itself, I saw it was in 5/4, when you could just Google image the score for John Carpenter's Halloween, and he did it in 5/4, 5 beats per measure. And I couldn't understand what was missing then in my arrangement of it and everybody else's arrangement. There was an extra note added to it to make it lay out to that 4/4 count, but you take that note away, and then it fits the the 5/4 paradigm. I don't know if you can hear that 5 count. The music, of course, will be up on the screen for you to see how that lays out in a pattern of 5. Now, the way that I look at this theme is you learn it in one position first, the starting one over here. And we're way up here again. Same thing like with the Twilight Zone theme. We're all the way back up onto the 21st fret again on the first string with our 3rd finger, and then our first finger lines up perfectly right there on the 19th fret. And we're still... I'm alternate picking that. Now, once you've learned that, you're pretty much home free. You've got the whole thing. But I broke down my arrangement, that I'm going to show up on the thing, into 5 different parts. And in a way, I almost see it like 3, because like 4 of them, you can group them together. I don't want to muddy the waters. Like, here's the idea. So you do this one. See, I went down a half step and played the same exact thing, just 1 half step down. And now I consider those 2 to be kind of like a pair, because he goes back up again. And when he goes back down to that one, now we go to the 3rd one, which is the same exact motif, but just another half step down. So all of a sudden I had a new one, another half step down. And by this time now I'm in the 16th position, but those 2 are a pair because he goes back up again. So that's 4 of them, and again, they sort of go in pairs, because the first one starts out, goes to the 1 half step back, and then goes back up to that one, back down, and then to the new one. Then there's the one behind that, and then it goes back again. Just kind of I think a really easy way to break it down. So instead of when you're looking at the tab, you see all these numbers, you can just see these patterns and how they move. It can be super helpful. Now, the 5th one's kind of an oddball one. Because that's all the way down at the 12th position. But otherwise, it's the exact same pattern. 3rd finger, 1st finger, 4th finger, 1st finger. And don't forget to alternate your pick. Now, I say that's the oddball one because it doesn't have like a neighboring one, like a half step like that. He doesn't do that. He sits on this one for a long time, just playing that over and over. Then eventually, goes back up to the original one. So without getting too into detail about the footings on that, that's basically how it's played. You learn that one theme and then be able to map out in your head how they all line up with doing the different pairings and the half-step shifts and all that. Then it becomes pretty simple, and you can always just pull up a studio recording of it on YouTube or something like that and play around with it and kind of see how it lays out, or maybe even do your own layout of it. Doesn't really matter. As long as you get the motif down, most people are going to understand what you're doing. Have fun with that one. Next little theme is somewhat of a short one. It's the melody, very recognizable melody from Chopin's Funeral March. I think my earliest memories of hearing that is hearing that in like cartoons, you know, when somebody dies, and it would be sort of a comedic motif in a sense, like, oh, they're dead, dum 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 kind of thing. I tried to gather a little bit more information on this. So I've always been a huge fan of Chopin, and this is from his second piano sonata in B flat minor. And there wasn't a lot of information about like what compelled him to write a funeral march, or sometimes I think it's referred to as a death march. Though you listen to the whole thing, it's very dark, and I don't think he wrote it for Halloween or anything festive like that. It seems that it was quite unfestive. It may have been related to his sympathy for Poland was trying to liberate themselves from Russia, and he was very sympathetic to the Polish people. And I guess he had death on his mind and wrote this theme. I kept this one in its original key, in B flat. And in this case, the chord I'm doing is just an octave. I just have my first finger on the 6th fret, 6th string. And then my third finger skips over 5th string, and it's on the 4th string. And when I strum it, I'm not worried about the 5th string ringing out, even though my pick's hitting it, because my first finger's going to kind of naturally dampen it, not making a lot of noise, and it's not going to make a note that I'm going to hear. So kind of a fun exercise too if you've never done octaves like that. They sound pretty cool. But I thought it was kind of a cool way to do the Chopin theme. So you just have to hold this chord down the whole time, and then just get the frets right. So you got the, and see that's 6th position. Now I'm up it to the 9th, half step down to the 8th, back to the 6th, 5th, and back up. And you just got to get that rhythm right. Our next theme is by my all-time favorite composer, Johann Sebastian Bach. This guy wrote some of the coolest music I've ever heard, and this is his Toccata in D minor. Now, this piece is interesting. It was originally written for organ, and it's one of the most famous pieces of music written for organ. Now, it's called Toccata and Fugue in D minor. I'm just doing what is known as the toccata. And a toccata, I guess, is typically like a sort of a fast-fingered tune, and typically written for a keyboard-type instrument, like a harpsichord, piano, or in this case, organ, but also a plucked instrument could also affect a good toccata type tune, and that's what the guitar is, a plucked instrument. So very appropriate to be playing it on the guitar. It is in the key of D minor, and it starts out with these notes, and that's the 10th fret and the 8th fret, and I'm on the 2nd string, and I did one pluck with a pick, then I did a pull off and a hammer on, so it's pretty quick. And then we jump over to the 5th position. What I did there is I lined my fingers up on the 2nd string, 4th, 2nd, and 1st. So that's frets 8th, 6th, and 5th. I pluck it. And I did some pull-offs, but quickly came in to the 3rd string, 6th fret. And you'll see the tab there. So we just kind of slur them together. And it's kind of a free piece, too, when it comes to counting it. It's the kind of thing that I wouldn't imagine most people actually practice to a metronome, because it's more free, you know? You got the... So I'm kind of taking some dramatic pauses there. And then after that part, you've got the... And then he does this in the 5th string. So there's a shift there, because you've got the 3rd finger on the 7th fret, Do the 4 on the 8, shift down to 4th position, same string, and go 1, 2. Okay, so our next bit. Okay, that's like the opening thing. But now we're on the 4th string, 7th fret, and 5th. Again, it's that hammer-on pull-off. Now we gotta do this same... Sorry, I was kind of sloppy. There we go. Same phrase, but the way the notes line up with the strings 4 and 3, the fingering's gonna be a little bit different. I'm at the 2nd position. And I'm gonna do that again. It sounds weird when I just do it like that. Because we gotta get that slur in there. So you almost don't even hear that note. But this time it's with the 3rd finger. So I'm at the 5th fret, 4th finger, got my 2 and my 1 ready. I do my pull off, come in with that upstroke, my 3rd finger, 4th fret, 5th string. They land it right there on the D. Okay. After we've done that, then we got this. What the heck? That is a cool pattern, man. I mean, if you want to like have a cool scale, it's actually not really a scale, it's an arpeggio. To write some cool, creepy sounds with, that'd be the one. Because what we're dealing with there is known as the full diminished chord. Now, superstition had it years ago, and we're talking hundreds of years ago, that you were summoning the devil if you played that scale. You know, and the kind of the bare essence of it is this. Or I can do it in the key that he's got. Right there. That sounds pretty wild. That's a diminished 5th. Again, it just seems to embody the just like the essence of evil in a sense, and I think that's what clergymen must have been hearing back in the day when these religious leaders were saying that it was improper to play such an interval because you were summoning the devil. Well, it does sound pretty scary, and in fact, you can find tunes in metal that use that all the time, and I think the first band to ever do it would have been Black Sabbath. You know. You know, here they were inventing the genre heavy metal and decided they wanted to write, so first they were a blues jam band, decided, hey, let's write music that scares people, and the first thing they do is they pull out that flatted 5th sound, that diminished 5th. It has a lot of different sounds. It's kind of funny. It actually, if you think about it, it sounds like the theme to The Simpsons by Danny Elfman. However, that's not what Bach was going for. He was not going for a Simpsons kind of sound. Now, what happens next is so cool. Toccata in D minor? What are you talking about? That's a D major chord. Well, that's Bach for you. He had a way of segueing right into major keys when he had been prominently in a minor one. But this is also considered just a good musical resolution, because if he landed on a D minor chord, it sort of has more dissonance than you would want. See, it's kind of unresolved, but the D major resolved it perfectly. Well, those are all 5 of our Halloween themes, and I hope you enjoyed learning about them as well as learning to play them. Have a happy Halloween.